Welcome to the Black Curriculum, the video series that answers the following question. What literature and experiences can be shared with others to better understand Black lives? Now, you've seen the title of the video and you've probably read Frantz Fanon's Black Skin, White Masks, which is an excellent piece of work written by a Black Frenchman whose take on language, relationships, and psychopathology as they pertain to the Black experience and how those things should not go unnoticed. Now, y'all know how I give it up when it comes to language, so we'll break down this video into two topics that Frantz Fanon covers in his book. Language and interracial relationships, because, well, yeah. We'll look at Frantz Fanon's take and we'll compare it to mine because, well, we disagree. And that's cool, One of the things I'm realizing while I'm reading these books is that I don't have to agree with every single word. As a matter of fact, one of the reasons why I'm sharing these books is because I believe that each book can be part of a more legitimized curriculum for learners, students, and readers alike that may have never had the conversation of what racial injustice looks like, for example, or what colorblindness means. Books are meant to provoke thought, and well, this book does a lot of provoking, so let's get right to it. Language. Now, according to Frantz Fanon, he believes that a man who has language consequently possesses the world expressed and implied by that language. And my goodness, he ain't lying. So many things ran through my mind when I read that. The first quote came from Articulate While Black, the quote that basically talked about how blackness is both political and linguistic practice rolled into one. And for me, I strive every day to keep my African American vernacular alive and well. Now, if you take the time to research my vernacular, or even look at one of my other videos, especially the one called An Introduction to African American English, shameless plug, then you'll realize how Black folks stay expanding their semantics, reinforcing its own grammatical rules and usage, and nurturing such a rich dialect. And that's just my point of view. Fanon is from the other side of the pond, France, where they speak French, a language that has its own aesthetic and syntax. But even in that linguistic difference between French and English, you can bet your croissant that they ain't trying to hear no Creole over there. That's that nigger speak right there. That's that slave language. At least that's how they feel. Now, in this book, Frantz Fanon mentions Black folk who wanted to learn French in France, looked at language as a way of opening up the keys that had been locked to them and their people for about 50 years. Having had the opportunity to make a presentation at work, I wanted to address language perception via unconscious bias, which is a term that basically means one's attitude or stereotype that basically molds one's understanding, actions, and decisions in an unconscious manner. So what does that unconscious bias look like in the city of Antilles? I know I might have mispronounced that word, so please forgive me, I don't speak French. Well, that unconscious bias ended up in schools where children were encouraged to speak proper French and learn proper French and not an ounce of Creole. I really like what Fanon mentions about the power dynamic as well in the French colonial army. He basically wrote about how Black officers in the Senegalese regiment were the first to be interpreters for their masters. Basically, they gave their master's orders to the rest of the soldiers. Now, how do you think these Black officers felt about that? Well, they loved it. Who wouldn't rest assured knowing that not only what you said was being followed, but you weren't getting any lip? For non-Black folk, that means any talk back, any resistance. But I want to also ask, how do you think the Black officers felt knowing that their message wasn't their voice, or their message wasn't their words per se? See, that's the thing. They're just messengers. They're just errand boys. #apocalypse now. Now, I must admit, Fanon doesn't spend as much time talking about language as he does talking about interracial relations now. Now, see, this is when the white masks get put on. And why am I thinking about, eyes wide shut when I'm reading this joint? But anyway, in this section, Fanon analyzes the dynamic, the manifestation, and motive of interracial relationships as seen during his time in France. I won't give it all away, but I will say that his assessment to interracial relationships are basically due to the fact that most Black people then wanted to be white, basically. And so they thought that being with someone who was white was their way of being ushered into the world of whiteness. So yeah, here's my take on interracial relationships. I'm for it. Just as long as both parties understand that their race matters on both sides. My problem with some interracial relationships is that they tend to adopt this sort of colorblind rhetoric, saying that, oh, it doesn't matter, you know, love is blind, it doesn't matter what color you are. Actually, it does matter what color you are, for both parties. See, my problem with the whole colorblind race doesn't matter rhetoric is that you're basically saying that you ain't really trying to take the time to understand that person's race and how that adds to their personality and identity that you claim to love so much. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some black folk who strongly disagree with what I just said. As a matter of fact, those black folk would be the same ones who are saying that marrying outside my race is disrespectful to all black women. All black women, though? I mean, I'm sure some of them wouldn't mind. But anyway, here's a clip of a man who sides with Fanon and disagrees with me.
Marriage is a political decision. Who you marry tells me who you are. When you marry a woman, you don't just marry her. You marry her culture. You marry her community. You marry her people. You understand? So when a black man marries a white woman, he's making several clear points and messages he's sending out to his own people. Because there's no greater symbol of your loyalty to your struggle than to marry a sister who shares that struggle.
Dr. Umar,
you need a woman who can feel you. And the only woman on earth who can understand the black man is the black woman. And that's why I cannot respect a black man who is not committed to a black woman. That's the greatest symbol of pride in self.
Look, I'll just say this because it's late and I'm not trying to explain my love because I think that's whack. And I'm not trying to police who loves who, but I will say that there are plenty of exceptional black folk who have literally been birthed from interracial relationships. Now, let's see, you got Jesse Williams, Malcolm Gladwell, Trevor Noah, former President Barack Obama. And trust me, the black community loves those guys. But here's my question to those who oppose interracial relationships. My question to you is, how can you love the Obamas and the Trevors and the Malcolms and the Jessies, but scoff at their parents' love? That's like protesting the manufacturer and still using the product. Look, the books that I share and the information that I take from those books can usually be broken down into two categories: blackness and whiteness. But with love, well, love ain't binary. This has been the Black Curriculum.